Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, and the Fit and Fab channel as well. Today, special edition, last day of the year, so it's just this is exciting. And before we go further, happy New Year, everyone, and wish you all the best from the platform here and my guest. And let 2023 be a super successful year for everyone. And this message will go as long as this show is out there. And then when the next year hits, again, the same thing. We wish you the best. Health, wealth, prosperity, peace, happiness, you name it, you want it, we want you to have it. So I'm Hurricane H. Today, we're going to be talking about, we have an interesting story and an interesting show because this is a father-daughter relationship. And it's coaching, it's mentoring, it's really, taking someone who you love, a child, to the next level and taking them for their, dream, aspiration, you name it, that's the kind of concept. So it's going to be cool. So with me today, Mark Ryall. How are you, Mark? How you doing?
I'm great, Hurricane, and thanks so much for allowing me to be part of your great show.
Well, thank you, Mark. Well, again, Mark is actually an author, and we're going to talk about his book. He's a coach, he's a father, and as a parent myself, as a father myself, and I have a daughter. It is, I know it's not a picnic when you're raising children, and as you going through, phases, and it's different, right? It's they children, go through multiple phases, and we go through them with them, and it's always difficult when you actually have to do some operations with them and work with them in a different way. Now, Mark, you were your daughter's coach, right? And do you have a whole story about that? So first things first, let's talk about the story from the beginning, how it all started. You and Stephanie, I believe, that's your daughter's name. All right.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So it all started when Stephanie was almost 8 years old. She told my wife, Lynn, and I that she wanted to go for a run around the block, which I thought was a little bit strange. She didn't know I used to run a little bit in high school, and I had done a marathon, but I quit running about almost 20 years ago. So she didn't know anything about it. But she had this urge to go run, and we said, "Why do you want to go run?" She said, "I don't know, I want to time myself around the block." Ooh, that's curious. 7 years old. Is there something going on at school? Yeah, we're having a race at school, and we're training the team. And training, you're only 7, right? I'm thinking in my back of my mind, this is so weird, but you know what? You can't hold her back. So I agreed to find a pair of shoes. Now I hadn't run in 20 years, so this is a bit of an adventure for me. I was wondering if I'd even be able to keep up with her, but I remember that first run just like yesterday. Now this is almost 20 years ago, right? Because I was 45 at the time. She was 8 or 7, and now I'm almost 64. So I remember it just like yesterday though. Her steps, she took about 3 times as many steps as I did, but we ran together, and I was looking down at her, very proud of her, and she was huffing and puffing, and I was doing a bit of huff and puff myself because I hadn't run for so long, but we ran not very far, less than a kilometer, but that started it all. That got me back into fitness and running, which was a great thing for me. It was such a positive thing, and it probably may never have happened if she hadn't willed me to go out there with her. And then it started a whole journey of fitness and competitive running for her. Yes.
Well, first things first. You said you were 64. I mean, God bless, dude. I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, it's working. I think the running is a good way to do this, right? So I'm gonna take your example here, and you know what? We do want to encourage people. Again, fitness is part of lifestyle, and I think if you keep up with it and you have a healthy lifestyle, aging process, everything, your health is always going to have a better chance, regardless of the elements. Ultimately, there's always different factors, genes and so on and so forth, but again, it is an important piece of life. And again, one of the things that we do here is to try to motivate people to stay fit, healthy, and wellness is health is our mission here. And definitely your example is awesome, but also what you mentioned about your daughter being at that age and got you back into running, and that's also a sweet thing to hear, that you never know what would trigger some of these things for us in life. It could be anything, right? In your case, it was Stephanie, who just decided to run in school and got you up and running, and you did.
Yeah.
And then that was, you never looked back. And beyond that, I mean, it was a whole long journey. And but again, it is important, for folks out there. We all have sometimes a space and a time frame in life where we kind of just lay back, and things sometimes don't go a certain way, but there's events that happen that trigger certain elements in life, and I think we have to be mindful of those, and we have to be aware of them when they happen. Let's take advantage of them, and again, you did well with that, and so now she started, you run. Well, by the way, I can tell you, I don't know if I can run a whole kilometer an hour and mile. So and I work out, but it's one thing to have good cardio and be able to run. It's two different things. I mean, cardio will help, but running is a whole different dynamic, and not everybody can do it, and you have to build to it. But it's not impossible. Again, everybody has the opportunity to start. If you've lost it, it's never too late. And we just talk about New Year right now. Hey, this is around the time when a lot of people have New York resolutions. So,
exactly.
so maybe this is the New Year resolution for everyone that's watching and listening, to do something with their health and certainly their fitness and wellness as well, and even with their family members. I mean, sometimes I think also that was also a good bonding between you and your daughter. Now you have something that you're looking forward together, and you just chose to coach her and mentor her into a whole career path, I guess. So let's talk about that. What was the transition from there?
Yeah, so from there, Stephanie, she ran her race, and I remember her first cross country race. A couple of weeks after that, our first jog together, she ran it. She ran in this long hockey jersey. I think the jersey stretched down to almost to her ankles. So it was pretty funny. I've got a picture of it in my book. It's just hilarious, running in this way oversized garb. But she did okay. She finished something like 15th out of a couple hundred girls. So that's not bad with a hockey jersey on. And then she progressed from there. So and so did I. I started running more miles. I wasn't used to this, but now I'm a master's level competitor already. I'm in my mid 40s. So when I used to run, I was running against all the young bucks, in the early 20s in high school and college. So that was a bit of a change for me, but it was nice too, because I didn't have to worry about all those professionals and all the hotshot runners. I could just run in my age category, and that was different for me. It was sort of cool because it made it fair for everybody, and for any listeners who are thinking of getting back into something, I encourage you to find something like, it doesn't have to be running, but something where you they make it fair for you, and if you are competitive too, it's not as cutthroat competitive anyway. You sort of get to know the people in your age group, but still, it is fair to only compete in your age bracket. So mine was 40 to 45 that first race, and I at the end of the race, I came across the finish line. I wasn't first. I was my first race, I think I was fourth. But at the end of the race, some other guy behind me, who just closed up right behind me, he came up and shook my hand. He said, "Are you over 40?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh shit! Sorry for using that term. You weren't bald. I was hoping you were like in the 30s or something like that. I still have my hair, so I guess he was figuring with my hair, I must be in the 30s." He said, "I think you just won the Masters age groups." But so that started it for me, and we both have progressed, and we still are serious runners. Actually, I've transitioned into triathloning now, so which is great for me because I'm still learning how to swim. I'm taking swimming lessons right now, and I get to swim with my wife a bit because she likes that activity. And the biking is fantastic. Takes a little bit of the pounding pressure off by just
Knees.
all running. Yeah, so it's nice to sort of mix it up a bit. And I still run, but not quite as much. I might run like 5 times a week, but then I do like 3 or 4 swims, and then 3 or 4 bike rides or bike simulations. So that's where I'm at right now. Stephanie has progressed pretty nicely. She and I talk about it in my book. We both have had our frustrations. No doubt, we've had our injuries, we've had sickness. Stephanie had to deal with asthma, exercise-induced asthma when she was a teenager. That really held her back in a lot of races where you just can't breathe, even though you feel good otherwise. But she progressed, and she's sort of grown out of that asthma. And she's still running. She's done trail races, like those 50K trail races. She's won one of those. She did her in college. She just graduated from Western University from University of Waterloo. But she's now at Western studying medicine, so she is pretty busy. But she still runs. She still loves running and competing, and she just set her PBs in the 1,500 meters and the 5K this summer on the track. So she's still progressing, and she still loves it. And that's the good news there.
Wow. Well. First of all, I love what you said about the concept of the age group and feeling stuff and to each his own, as there is. But as as people say, I love what you said. I mean, there is something for everyone. And you can find the element where you can feel yourself in the element and make it happen. And you don't have to go out of your way. There are plenty of things that you can fit in. And it doesn't matter what is it that you love to do. As long as you're doing it, you'll find a way. And again, it's okay to be competitive, and you don't have to be super crazy or competitive, but competitiveness is pretty good for lifestyles and everything. It keeps you moving, it keeps you going. And, again, in this case, it's a health aspect as well, and the fact that you're doing all the three, the swimming, the running, the biking, I mean, those are all complete workouts and complete types of sets of exercises. I mean, swimming is one of the best, exercise you can have. I mean, it's a full body, and cycling is pretty good. And you're right, running actually does get a toll on your knees, your back and all that, but, you get a little bit of that and work those muscles. It's pretty cool, and it is not an easy. It's not for everybody, and you got to work out a lot to get there. And you have to prep, and so again, kudos to you guys, and hats off. I mean, you said it. At 64, you're doing those things. I don't know if I can do it, and I'm at the 50 mark. So, I'll salute you just from here. You got this. You win by default.
Well, thank you.
But really, and I love what you said. You worked with your daughter, and she's gotten to the next level. But I do want to highlight the fact that you said she had asthma, and I mean, obviously breathing is a key element in running, and asthma may not always be the best friendly thing that happens to someone when you really need it. You need your breath, and the breathing cadence when you're doing the stuff. So it's pretty difficult. How did you manage that? I mean, through medical, or it was just training, and how does that work for people that are listening? Maybe this is something that can happen to them as well.
Yeah. So the first thing, it was a shock when we found out, because she was in the grade 9 cross country Ontario finals, and she was seeded to be one of the top 5 in that race. So during the race, we couldn't see them, but there was an announcer doing a play-by-play. I guess they had spotters out and we never heard her name. The whole, they would go through the top 10, never heard Stephanie's name. And I started getting really worried, and so did Lynn, because we didn't know she had this condition. And what had happened, we didn't know. She had an asthma attack about less than a kilometer in. So she wasn't even running most of the race. She was just walking back in she had a coach out there sort of walk back with her. And but we were really worried at the finish line, because she never came in. All the runners came in. We never saw Stephanie. So that was our first. So at first it was a worry. It was a shock and a worry. Then I researched it a bit, and so did Stephanie. And I said to her, look, the top 2 marathoners in the world, Ryall Selassie from Ethiopia, I'm trying to remember her name. I should know her name Paula Radcliffe from the UK. the two world record holders in the marathon, current record holders, have asthma. So this isn't going to stop you. You're going to maybe have to deal with it, but it's not going to stop you as a distance runner. And I don't think asthma would have to stop people in almost any other sport either. You have to deal with it. So we did a medical approach. She did the chemical puffer thing you would take 15 minutes before a race. That helped a little bit, but she still had asthma attacks in some races. She got a big invite down to the Philadelphia, the Penn Relays, which is the biggest track and field race, I believe, in North America. There's like 15,000 people in the crowd watching. She was in that race against the top American girls in grade 10, and she had an asthma attack in that race too. So that was a long ride home. And you asked how did we deal with it? I just, we on the ride back, I just tried to take her mind off the race. What happened? We tried to play some word games, have some fun, listen to the comedy on the radio. There I'm more of a father than I am a coach, right? And I'm trying to, give her some perspective, because she is very competitive. Stephanie is and was very competitive. And I know asthma was an issue for a few years, but like I said, it eventually sort of fizzled out, and she's fine now. But the main issue I had with Stephanie was not a physiological issue. It was more like she wanted to run harder, run more. And even as a 10, 12-year-old, she wanted to run further distances, started running some 10Ks. And I was always pulling her back. I was always sort of almost like pushing her down, or trying to worrying about her as a young athlete, trying to push too much. And that's a very important thing for coaches, and because you get really excited, you see them succeeding and winning races, and why not go a little further or do another, so. And we were reading about girls, a couple of girls in the United States who were running like 300 kilometers a month, and when they were 12 years old, and some of them were running marathons when they were 13, 14 or whatever. And I had to really rein Stephanie in and be cautious. And she, in the forward to my book, Stephanie says I was a bit of a hard ass on that, and we locked horns on that a lot. Even in workouts, she'd want to do an extra interval or two, or go up higher on the hill or whatever. And I was always just slowing her down and just watching out for her. So she talks about it in the book, how we locked horns, and she does give me a compliment near the end of the forward. She says, I'm glad my father held me back, because I still love running and I've never really been seriously injured. And so that's nice to hear, But we had fun with it. I remember there's one quote in the book, I think when she was about 11, she tells her friend going to a hockey game. I wasn't in the car, but my wife was in the car with Stephanie and her friend. They were going to a hockey game, and they were talking about running and me coaching her. And Stephanie said, my father's a pretty good coach, but I think I need a professional. So yeah, that's what we were dealing with.
Well, so Mark, I want to just dissect some of the stuff you mentioned. One is actually great advice, because, a great item that you mentioned when we talked about asthma is that you had to figure out a way to deal with it, regardless of something that you have no choice, right? It's happening, but you want it to continue. She wanted to continue. And you have to manage. And I think that's managing expectations for everyone watching and listening. In this case, it's asthma, but it could be anything in life. And whether it's racing, working, singing, music, theatrical, whatever that you're doing in life, that's your passion and you're working towards it, know that there's going to be some hurdles, there's going to be some bumps. And it's just the aspect of how you deal with these things and kind of work around them. There's always a work around things. And
yes.
Again, the key is not to give up. Finding, you give the example of the top, people that are successful in marathons and they're holding the records, yet they have a similar condition. So you had to give that analogy to show that if they can do it, we can do it. And that's important to everybody. And this is just an example for whatever, you're doing in life. Look at what people are doing in the same category and see who's doing what. And maybe that's going to be your motivation, inspiration, because don't let things stop you because you have, a bad day or something is happening. There are tremendous stories out there of people that overcome difficulties in life, no matter what they're doing. I mean, all athletes, go through difficulty. All actors and artists and success stories have gone through these things and blocks and so on. So that's important. So that's the first item I wanted just to highlight. The other one is, it is interesting because you are the coach, but you're also the father. And I think, we want to just highlight that for a minute because there might be a conflict of interest there.
Oh yeah.
Because the coach is someone that is not related to you. Typically, they're just going to push you, they're going to train you, and they just focus on that. But I can see it from a father's perspective, like, you don't want her to get hurt. You don't want her to, so there's this a push and pull type of technique here. And you want to, you think you know better for them and they think they know better. And I know also, going from 8 years old to today, you've gone through stages, and I know kids change over those years. And I do have a spectrum of children from 16 to 20 to 25. So I can tell you, I've seen all those ages go through. And so the idea is that they really transfer, and they're like, transformers, literally, from one age to the other. And the attitude changes and the expectations changes and all these things. There's the peer pressure. There's all the stuff that they know. And dad, you don't know everything. I know better gets into play. And I love the comment that, he's a good coach, but I need a professional. Because that's the expectation. I mean, and you're always going to be, you're the father. You're not really seen as the coach, which is a double hat that you wear, and that is difficult. And we've seen that in acting. We've seen that in some of the celebrities, actually, where the parents actually are coaching their actor children, things like that. So it is common, but it's difficult to actually manage both actually titles, right? I mean, being a father is being a father, being a parent is a parent. There's fear, there's love, there's caring and stuff. And I'm not taking anything from the coaches. They love their teams and their trainees, but there's no, if something happens, I mean, it can end there. But in this case, it's not going to end there. You are responsible for your daughter no matter what. So it's a very difficult. How did you manage that? I mean, that had to be a difficult task.
Yeah. And I actually had a third hat on Hurricane. It was I was her training partner. We ran a lot together, especially when she was between 9 and 13. That's about when we were about the same level. When she was actually very fast. At 13, at 14, she started becoming faster than I was, because I was now, you can imagine, I'm in early 50s. I've slowed down a bit from the natural slowdown of you lose about 1% of your aerobic capacity every year at around that age of 50. So I'm getting a little slower every year, and she's getting faster, right? So I'm also a training partner, and so it's a pretty deep relationship. You're training with them, you're trying to coach them still, and then you're still their father. And luckily on the coaching front, Hurricane, I was able to back off a bit, because by the time she hit high school, she had a very good coach here at the local school, Art Charsneys, who also, by the way, had his daughter on the team. And Phoebe, his daughter, was excellent with Stephanie. Phoebe was the captain in grade 12. Stephanie was coming in grade 9. So Stephanie had a good runner to pair up with and a great coach there. So I was able to stand off finally. And then by the time she hit university, she had some excellent coaches at University of Waterloo and Western University. So, and then I became less of a training partner too, because the only way I could keep up was if I got on a bike or something. And now I need an e-bike to keep up with her. So she really is fast. So I did try doing a bike thing with her this summer. She went through this 20K run with sort of a trail run. And she said, Dad, you can come on the mountain bike with me and keep up. Okay, fine. That sounded easy. But when you hit the hills, she would just zip up the hills. And I'm like, I couldn't even get up some of the hills on the mountain bike. So, I would lose contact with her. But then on the downhills, I had the advantage, so I could catch up. But that was an interesting experience, just trying to keep up with her on a bike on a trail. Not easy. So I'm not training with her as much. I'm not really a training partner. I'm not a coach, really. I'm now just her father, which is nice. I shouldn't say just her father. It's great being a father, right? But there was a time there where it was pretty, I remember, when you're the father, you don't want to show any favoritism either. So I remember I used to coach hockey too, and she was on a hockey team. And one day I subbed in as coach because the other coach couldn't be there. So I know the other coach used to play her a lot. She was a very good hockey player too. So when there was a power play, or, Stephanie never got tired either, right? So, because she's a runner. So he'd double shift her and play her a lot. So that game when I coached her, I didn't use her any more than I just rolled the benches. Didn't treat her, give her one extra shift. And she was so angry afterwards. She said, we had this long drive home after that game. And I'm just saying, I can't show any favoritism. Sorry. But she really did not enjoy that, because well, I don't know what being the father, that conflict of interest, right? You got to be careful. So, but in running, it wasn't too bad because you're not, as the coach, you're not really influencing the run in any way. Or they go, the gun starts, they run, and you're not impacting the game or giving them more playtime or anything like that. So I guess there's not as much conflict, but there still is a conflict, and it's still tough. And long-term athletic development was always my driving force. So I read about it. Depending on the sport, like some sports, some kids do have to really push when they're like, say, gymnastics or something like that. They're going to have to push pretty hard. Swimming, I think you've got to be pushing hard through high school. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be, at the highest level, whatever that high level is, you're not going to reach it. But for running is known as a late specialization sport. So most runners don't peak till they're 25 to 30, even years old. So there's no need to push hard when you're 14, 13. That's not going to impact that's not going to make you the greatest runner. You can even wait till after high school and start running. Some of the best runners in the world didn't even start till after high school. So I was reading about that, and I didn't want to see her, hurt herself. And there are some issues specific to females too. We can talk about like the female athlete triad and things that involve osteoporosis and whatnot, where when they're just pre-puberty, that they have to really watch out for. So we were wary of that, and Stephanie was reading about that too. So she agreed with me on that. So.
Well, thank you, Mark. I mean, that's a lot. And I love that third hat. I mean, that's not easy. I mean, the father, coach, and, training partner. I mean, that's a lot. And you also have to deal with the changes, like I said, the age, categories as they shift, the mindset shifts, the attitude shifts, everything shifts. So it's a little more difficult, but eventually you handed the actual baton to another coach, and who took care of her, and then you just kind of kept the one thing, which is the parent, the father, duty. But I'm sure that there was many moments of conflict and challenges, and again, like everybody, all the parents, we go through those things. But one thing for sure, I think all parents listening, and even children eventually as they grow, they would agree to this. All what parents want is their kids to be the best and to succeed and have the best life and the healthiest life. And sometimes we're overprotective, and unfortunately that's a natural instinct. We all have that. And I think mothers are even worse than fathers. I mean, we're equal, but I think the mothers have a little bit more of protective mode, and maybe dads are a little bit more like direct and tougher in one way. But everybody's got their own little formula and rhythm. But at the end of the day, we all have the same objective: is that we care for our kids. We want them to have the best. We want them to succeed, but we have a different vision than they do, and we have a little bit more expertise in life. So we actually understand sometimes, that things can be difficult, and we just want to avoid, and prevent some of these things to happen from them. I mean, we know things because we've gone through things. I mean, you said it yourself. You were in the 40s, and you've gone through a lot of your own, life, and some of the things that you already know what the outcomes could be. You try to make sure that our children don't even get close to it or get involved in some things, and you're right, you didn't want to push too much because you knew that she has plenty of time to do this, but in her mind, no, Dad, you're stopping me. I got potential, I want to do more. And that's always going to be a challenge. And, I have the same thing with my kids. I mean, not in just sports, but anything. You want to encourage them. You also, sometimes you want to, kind of pose them a little bit or hold back a little bit, because you don't want them to go too crazy on things, because sometimes they just, there's no fear. I think that's the other part with the younger folks, is there's no fear factor. Everything sounds good. Everything sounds like feasible. I mean, I was younger. I thought I can fly, literally. I know I can, but your mind is telling like, oh, you got everything. You got this. As you age, the reality hits a little bit differently, and be like, wait a minute, I can't do this. I mean, I don't want people to think that just what I mentioned now about I can't do that. You can do anything you want. It's just that you have to understand where you stand, so you can do it at your own pace and do it correctly. So just to adjust that, because I don't want people to think like, well, Hurricane just said that, you can't do it. No, you can do anything in your mind that you want, but it's just a matter of adjusting correctly to where you are in your phase. And the sky's the limit. And there are I have a friend, actually, she was a guest on our show. Her name is Madonna Hanna. She's actually one of she runs, professionally, and she's in the senior league literally, and she's well known, and she's actually out there in training, and nothing stops her. And God bless her, hey Madonna from this platform, if you hear the show. But really, she's a phenomenal, inspiration and motivation to a lot of people. And that's the thing, like, you can't stop. You're doing it. Everybody, you do whatever you feel right for you. And as parents, we want our kids to succeed and do the best that they can and be the best that they can be in their life. But we just do it with caution, because again, we do have love and we do care, and we don't want anything to happen bad to them. And the other part of it, if something bad's happened to them, not only they're going to get hurt, but we also have to deal with that. Sometimes it's also a selfish aspect of it. We don't want to deal with the crazy. So Mark, let's talk about the transition. So she transited, so she became more independent. And, so what was your support system with her at that point?
So at that point, once she's more independent, say running for university, my goal is just to cheer her on, be like a father, right? And she wasn't living with us anymore, and she was studying biochemistry and whatnot. And now she's gone into medicine, but she's still running, still competing, and she's run out of her eligibility though, because you get 5 years of university eligibility, and then you're on. So this is her first year not eligible. So but she runs as a free agent, right? She can still. So that's transition. It's been nice for her, I think, and she, like I said, she doesn't have any of these asthma issues. One other thing that did happen to her though, and I think this would relate to a lot of people, is that she plateaued, and she plateaued pretty seriously. So, and this happens in running, but it also happens in almost all other things, say music or art or other sports, where you just, no matter how hard you train, you seem to be going sideways, and in running, there are physiological reasons why, especially females again, will tend to peak when they're 14 or 15 and then actually go backwards for a while. So as they reach puberty and their body changes a little bit and their hormones, they actually will slow down. Desi, her name is Davila. She won the Boston Marathon, the American. She talked about that. She said when she was 14, she was super fast, and then she slowed down, and it took her till she was, I think she said 23. Her name is now Desi Linden, but her original maiden name was Davila. But Desi, most people would know her, I guess it's Desi Linden. She said it took her 9 years till she was 23 to start taking down her high school times in track to get that fast again. But she never stopped running. And then she kept at it, became a very fast marathoner. And now, I believe 3 years ago, she won the Boston Marathon in a rainstorm. She won the whole race. What an incredible race and accomplishment for her. And I think she was probably in her early 30s when she did that. So anyway, so there was that issue, the plateau thing that Stephanie went through. And she slowed down too, and it was frustrating for her, but she kept running. She was uninjured, trained just as much, even more, with all the university teams. And just the last couple of years, she started to take down her records from when she was 14, 15. So I mentioned that she set a PB in the 5,000 meters. So she had run a 17:29 PB 5K when she was 14 in New York at the New Balance Indoor National Championships. And that's pretty fast for a 14-year-old, for a boy or a girl. And she could never take down that time till she was just a couple of years ago. She finally ran broke 17 minutes, and she's expecting to be closer to 16 minutes this summer. So good for her for sticking with it and working her way through that plateau. That's a big plateau for any athlete or any artisan. 8 or 9 years, but she stuck with it, and she loves it, and I give her all the credit for persisting, really. And so I was so happy for her. She was literally crying when she finally broke that time, because she had gone through so much just trying to get back to where she was at, and then 2 weeks later she broke the record again, and a month later she ran a 4:32 1500 meter, which is pretty fast. I was even a little shocked by that. So she's gone through a lot on the plateau side, and I'm sure that some listeners can relate to that. Just keep at it, and keep your chin up, and yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you, because it is a big important message for our audiences, and whether in the fitness, the world, and the workplace, or whatever that you try to do out there. The key here is, I mean, you said keyword persistence, right? And you have to be persistent, no matter, it's a key, right, to success. One of the keys to success, and you go on an incline that's everybody's like happy about going up there, but you get to that point where it kind of phases out and it just stays this. The key here is not to drop, hopefully not, just maintain and then build on top. And it's going to take some time. Depending on what you do, you can be a little shorter and longer, but at the end of the day, just don't give up. Keep up at it, and just keep adjusting and keep advancing, keep adding whatever you do, and then eventually you start seeing yourself going back at least to that same level or even better than the level. But never give up. That's key. And consistency and persistence is a key here. So to keep and maintain, I think that's important no matter what you do. We've seen that in, again, artists and athletes, and you name it, we've seen it. So my next question to you, Mark, is what would be the advice you would give to young athletes today? And, if they're starting anything, what would be a core message to them? And then also, what would be the core message to their parents and or their coaches?
Yeah. So
from those three perspectives.
Yeah. For the athletes, just enjoy that ride and pick a sport that you like, and you'll make lots of friends in that area too. So think of it as sort of a social group that you're going to get into. You might make friends for life with that athletic pursuit, and just enjoy that pursuit and keep improving. Yeah. Don't be afraid to be competitive, but be a good competitor. Be nice to your people, even if you beat them. Right? Be nice to them, and don't show off too much or anything. Be humble. Sort of like I don't know. A good example of a humble athlete would be our hockey player Wayne Gretzky, who's probably the best hockey player that ever played in the NHL. And I remember after the games they would interview him, and he would always talk about his teammate or his coach, or he never talked about himself, what he did, even though he might have had 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists in the game. It was never like, he would never ever focus on that. He was always complimenting and bringing others into the fold of success, and he was very, very humble about it all. And it's so anyway, enjoy the ride, be humble, and make lots of friends. And so that's for the athlete. For the parents, be careful of the parent trap. We sort of alluded to it a little bit, where the parent gets overzealous and almost all wrapped up in the success of the child, and then the success of the child becomes paramount for the parent themselves, which is sort of a weird thing. It's about the kid, it's about your kid, and it's about their long-term happiness and development. So you have to sort of rate yourself in a bit too, and be respectful. For example, if there's a referee in the game, well, that's a tough job being a referee, and you want to sort of respect them too, even if they do make a bad call. You don't want to harass them too much or harangue them. They're humans trying to do the best, and then the kids pick up on that too. So you be fair to the officials and referees and whatnot, and the other competitors, and try not to let your kids' success, which will happen, don't be too dependent on that. Celebrate it, help them out, support them, give them direction and whatever they need, but try to keep your perspective.
All right. And what about coaches? What would be the advice to them?
Almost the same for the coaches as the parents, eh? So like coaches can be can sometimes get a little bit too wrapped up in the success of their athletes too, and sometimes even possessive of the athletes. So they although they are giving their time, and often volunteer time too, so that's fantastic. So for coaches, enjoy the ride. I did a lot of coaching. Again, because of with Stephanie, I ended up coaching cross country running and track and field for almost 20 years. So, and I'm still coaching. So even though I've retired, I'm helping out. So I think the number one thing for me that I try to do is to try to pay attention to all the athletes. Like, so you're going to have some star athletes, and they're going to do fine things, and give them the support they need. But uh, really try to support all of the athletes. They'll pick up on that if you show them that you care about them, and even though they're not the superstars. In my cross country, for example, I used to make a big deal about the fourth runner, because you need 4 runners to cross the line to get a team score. So the first runner and second runner, we pretty much knew who they were going to be from our school. But who was going to be the fourth runner, the final counter for our team? And there were the 5th, 6th, 7th runners trying to become that fourth runner. I used to make a big deal out of that, because then that got everybody involved. They all felt like they could contribute. And I said to the girls and boys afterwards, you should be worshiping the fourth runner, because they're the ones that completed your team. And they may be, nobody will notice them maybe in a race. They might be in the middle of the pack, in the thick part where, they're in the crowd. You can't even pick them out. But when they cross the finish line, they are very important, very integral to your team. And we were a small school where I coached. So sometimes we only had 4 runners. So I would say the top 3 runners, you wouldn't even have a team without your fourth. So we're going to make this fourth runner feel special, and we're going to train with them, and even if they're a lot slower, we're going to try to make them improve. And that to me for coaching was was invaluable for me too, because I'm a pretty fast runner too, and Stephanie was always really good, but that brought me back more into the normal runner, the normal athlete, and appreciating them and making them feel appreciated. That, I think, is my message to coaches.
Well, Mark, so I want to thank you for that message, because I think that's powerful across everyone, because nothing is happening by one person or 2 people. I think everybody contributes to any success. I mean, you're talking about referees, you're talking about, the people that can make errors, whatever. But at the end of the day, everybody's trying. You're talking about the coaches who volunteer in time. And we want to thank everybody. And yeah, everybody takes a little bit personal, and we all in the competitive spirit. But at the end of the day, we have to be fair with everyone, and it's a very difficult task. But at the end of the day, we have to know that. And sports should be always at the end of it, a message to everybody, and a place where we can feel good about things and righteous and so on and so forth. So, and sports are always used in trainings and in terms of leadership training or team training. There's always analogies, and you just mentioned, the example of how to be humble. And that's another thing. I mean, you can be the top, and it's just your personality that's going to make a difference in how people are going to perceive you. And I think that's an attitude that is important to maintain if you're, seeking success, and don't let it get to your head. Sometimes the power trips, get in play, and if you keep the humble, status, that's awesome. But again, it takes a lot of time to actually realize that. When not everybody gets that wisdom right away, and I think it comes with time. But it's a great message for everyone, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're contributing, no matter who you actually rooting for or not. At the end of the day, let's respect everybody. Let's be fair to everyone, and always give the benefit of doubt, no matter what. And I think that's a great piece of life that we can always apply, and hopefully have a better life that way. You want to say something, Mark?
Well, no, I was thinking about, thanks for reiterating that, because that's just so important. And I was thinking, there's our extreme examples of this too. Like, for example, a lot of people have heard of Terry Fox, who is, if you ask Canadians anyway, who's the number 1 hero in Canada? It's not Wayne Gretzky, it's Terry Fox. Terry Fox is a person who never finished his race. And he had a huge impact, and he never finished his race. His race is, he wanted to run from Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada and to go to the west coast all the way to Vancouver. And he ran on one leg because he had cancer, and he had lost another leg, so he had sort of an artificial limb there, but he could push off it a bit, but he was basically galloping on one leg and pushing off on this artificial. So it's a bit of a hop step type thing. And he made it from Newfoundland all the way through Ontario, through Toronto. I remember I was in high school when he came through Toronto, and they were interviewing him because he did a bit of a press conference, and there was a lot of excitement building up by the time he hit Toronto. And they interviewed him at City Hall, and there was thousands of people there listening to him talk. And Terry Fox, they said, "Terry, what about all that pain in your leg? Like, how are you doing this?" And he said, the pain in my leg is nothing compared to the pain that people who are suffering from cancer all across the world. It's nothing. He said, nothing. So, and I'll never forget when he said that. What a hero. So he continued on. He went up to around Lake Superior, and he ran, by the way, he ran a marathon each day doing this. Like, he ran 26 miles. I still get emotional thinking about this guy, because what a hero. A guy who never finished his race. He stopped in Thunder Bay. The doctors ordered him to stop because the cancer was progressing, and then he died soon after that. So, but I think now they're approaching $900 million that has been raised for cancer in his name, with the Terry Fox runs across the world and Terry Fox Foundation. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it's not necessarily the winner that finishes across the finish line, gets the medal. That is, you know, that we need to admire. It's all these other people who have their own battles, you know.
Well, it's pretty powerful, Mark, and you're right. I mean, winning the medal or the trophy, whatever, that's a sweet, you know, but it's the journey and the impact that you make throughout the journey. And many people don't finish that race, and yet they have super impact around the world, and that's just you know, an example of you know, that we all should admire and seek those examples, because they can keep us in a better place. And you know, when you have your worst day, think about those things, and then your life becomes better.
Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, you can have the worst, but then you think about something, like in this case, you know, like his pain is nothing compared to the people that are really, really suffering. And that's exactly what sometimes we are very fortunate to have today, because many people don't have what we have today. And, you know, if you think about those people, life would be a lot easier. No matter what you're going through, there's someone's going through worse. And, you know, there's definitely someone that's going through better, but that's probably the minority. The majority is probably doing, you know, something either equal or less. And you know what, you know, be thankful for that, and always mindful of it. So now, what was the motivation behind the book? And what is the name of the book?
Yeah. So Hurricane, I wrote this book just this year. Well, I started it a few years ago, but I finished it off this year. I've just retired, so I have a little bit more time, and I was able to work with Stephanie and go back and recollect all these events that we talked about here, right from that first run when she was 7 years old. And I thought, you know, I want to sort of write a training book for running, for distance running, but I want it to be interesting. So we'll put in some personal stories about Steffi and I. So it's a bit of a biography, but it's also very much a training manual, talking about all those issues like injuries and specialization and coaching and things like asthma and plateaus and setbacks and overtraining and training properly. And so, you know, so I put it together with some help from Stephanie, and I just published it a few months ago, and it's called Run Daughter, Run Father. And I actually put daughter first in there on purpose, because she's the one who got me running, right? So it's Run Daughter, Run Father. And I didn't want it to be seen like I'm making her run. It was completely the opposite. She got me into running. So Run Daughter, Run Father. That's the name of the book. And I'm very happy that to put it out there. I think it's a very positive story, and it's a good message it's got lots of good lessons for parents, but also for young athletes, but also interestingly for older athletes, because I do talk about my own age group competitiveness in there too.
Well, thanks, Mark. And I think the message can go beyond that, because it's not always just about running stuff. I think some of these concepts can apply to everything else in life. And again, sports is definitely something, you know, that we can utilize in even business and day-to-day life runnings, right? So it's important. So again, Run Daughter, Run Father is the name of the book, and I'm assuming it's available on Amazon and everywhere, right? That a book is?
Yeah, I can provide you with a link if you want. I could give you a link that sort of goes to all the retailers, but Amazon for sure, Apple,
sure,
Kobo, Indigo, all the big retailers will have it. Yes.
Well, it will be a resource for people. So again, you know, at the end of the day, those shows are to educate people, to enlighten them and inspire and motivate, and certainly give them some resources. You know, every book has something that we can, you know, take from and learn. I mean, we've had a discussion over, you know, some of the items, but nothing's going to do justice to the book but the book. You got to read the whole thing and go through it. And I'm sure there's always going to be an extract that you can, take and add to other, contents that you read as a listener or viewer. So again, folks, there's always value that we try to bring in, and plenty of resources out there. Mark, and thank you for doing that and sharing your literally live and story, but as well as the concepts that you've applied till today, and you put them. It's amazing that one thing about authors and writers is that we all go through life, but you guys do a better deal where you put it all in writing and you leave it behind, to the generations to come, because books don't they stay forever, right? And
You're
they're
right.
always there, and it's a legacy. And I think today a lot of knowledge we have is from people that are, for centuries, it just handed down to us, and we add that that value, and we utilize that value, and then we come up with more stuff.
Yeah.
and just we contribute to the world. I mean, you are definitely a contributor to that legacy, and those books. And I was watching this movie. I've seen it like hundreds of times. It's like 2012. I don't know if you're with it's about this whole disaster thingy or whatever, but in there was a discussion about books and how books become a legacy of humanity, and no matter what that book is, that book is always going to be there, and so there was an analogy to books and that kind of a concept. But when you think about it in deep mode, I mean, it's important that these things are collected, and not because if nobody puts them in writing, they just disappear, and that's it. Eventually nobody gets that. But putting them in words and documenting them, it just stays for life, and that's important. So I want to thank you, and I thank all our authors and writers out there, and for the work that they do, and it just changes lives. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And it's about people. And I actually have a copy of the book here, and I just want to show people the cover.
Oh, look
Can
at
you
her.
see that? That's before Stephanie ran. She's only 4 years older than that. But that's what sports is all about too. It's about people bonding. Whether it doesn't have to be father, mother, child. It could be coach, athlete, teammates. It's about sports. Ultimately, it's about people, celebrating people trying hard and trying to do their very best. And so I was very happy to share that. And that's why I put a picture of just that, father-daughter thing right on the front. By the way, my wife took that picture and designed the cover, so she's involved in it too.
Well, yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's not forget that, because there's always people behind the scenes that are, all this is always supported by people that sometimes we don't hear about or see. And I think this is a thank you to all of them. So thank you to your wife.
Yeah, thanks to Lynn. That's right. So great. It's been great talking to you, Hurricane, and I can tell that you deep down inside you are a real sports guy, but also a people person, and that's fantastic. Way to go! Keep up the great work with your show.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for being with us today, and spending actually, the New Year's Eve here, literally early on with me. But thank you so much, and folks, I want to thank you for watching the show and listening and taking some of the juice in it and maybe apply it in life. And please do share the wealth out there. I mean, the idea is that, again, this is knowledge in the form of the book, in the form of discussion, but at the end of the day, it is resource for everybody. Please, if you feel that there's any message here that can be exchanged with other people, please do so. And that's the idea. Let's just keep the vibe going. Let's keep the wealth running. And you know what? Maybe the 2023 year, coming on, will be a better, place for the whole world, and bring a lot of joy, happiness, prosperity in the whole nine for everyone. So whatever you wish for, whatever you think for, there's a new day coming up, a new year. Let's do the best that we can to be better, and just contribute to the world. That being said, I'm Hurricane H. Thank you for watching, and we'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic, new year. Bye for now.